Alright guys, so we got a split system today. Thermostat is set at 60. We're pushing down about 75-degree air. I haven't been up top to the roof yet to check out a condensing unit, but our blower's on. We have a call for cool. So let's get upstairs and see what we got going on up there. Nothing like a shaky ladder to get you to a rooftop, huh? Alright. Looks like we have a very, very old condensing unit sitting over there. Let's see what we got going on here. So, my initial diagnosis is our condensing fan motor's not doing nothing. Got nothing going on. Motor doesn't really seem hot. Normally if they're locked up and seized, this motor mount will conduct some heat. You'll be able to just kind of feel this and it'll be nice and hot. So I'm gonna left these wires out. That's a little bit of hackery, I guess. Best thing to do is just take a little piece of PVC and you want to thread these wires through that PVC, because over time the sun will just deteriorate this insulation and one day they'll just short out. So alright, well, let me get my meter out and see what we're dealing with here, alright? As you can see, I got my side panel removed. First thing I noticed was this capacitor just kind of suspended in midair by some zip ties, thanks to our run cap bandit. I still have my disconnect plug in there. I'm just gonna check right here at the incoming side of our contactor to see if we have any sort of power sitting here. We should have 230 volts. As you can tell, we have nothing. Check at the ground real quick, see if we got anything. Yeah, we got nothing. Nothing right there. Let's pull this disconnect out. See if we have anything sitting inside here. Alright, so we don't have any power at this unit, so we either have a trip breaker or somebody just mistakenly had turned it off for some reason. But before we go any further, let's just do a quick check at this contactor. I just want to see if we have any sort of resistance, any continuity to ground. Maybe our compressor shorted out, tripped that breaker. So before we go flip that breaker, we want to make sure we don't have nothing shorted to ground here. If I can get my meter set up correctly. Zero. So we don't appear to be grounded anywhere. My compressor has, the wires going into my compressor have continuity. 2.8, 3.2. 0.9. So our single phase compressor checks out. Remember, on single phase compressors, guys, you can take all three of the readings, and the lowest and the middle reading should equal your highest reading, which would be your start to run winding. So common to run will be your lowest, start to common will be the mid-range reading, and then you take those two, add them together, that should equal your resistance between run and start. So let's go downstairs, check our breaker, and see what we're dealing with. It took me a little while to find the breaker for this unit because they have four separate large breaker panels in this building, and nothing is labeled. But I eventually found it. Powered it on. We got 240 volts at our disconnect. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put that disconnect back in and see if we fire up. I'm not going to do anything as far as strapping that capacitor or fixing this wiring issue yet until I power it back on and see if we have any more issues. Because there's no point in going through and fixing the wiring on this condensing fan motor if it turns out the motor's bad. Alright, so let me get this disconnect plugged in and see where we're at after that. Our disconnect is back in. Power is on. Our compressor contactor is pulled in. We currently have about 12.5 amps on our compressor. Come over here to our data plate. Our data plate says run load amps should be 13, so we're well within tolerance. Let's make sure we're just about beer can cold. Liquid line is a little bit warmer than ambient, and suction line is nice and cool. So I believe all we had was a case of a breaker being turned off for no apparent reason. They may have turned it off over the winter time for whatever reason, but I'm gonna unplug that disconnect, strap up the capacitor, and fix the wiring in that condensing fan. As you can see, I have my capacitor strapped up properly. My wiring's all secured. I had to unwire my condensing fan motor in order to run the wires through some PVC. If you can see it down in there, hopefully the camera's picking it up. I have the unit off right now. And this side, we got those directional wires inside some PVC. And again, guys, just to reiterate the point, the reason behind that is to keep the wires out of the sun. So after they sit in the sun for months and years, the insulation just deteriorates, and eventually it's going to short out. So, all right, let's power this on and go check our supply temp. It looks like we got about a 60-degree supply. My return is 78, 79, depending on where I put it in the return duct. So I think at this point I'm gonna attach some gauges real quick just to see what kind of pressures we got. Take me along the ride there. Yeah, we're still putting out a good amount of heat. Now I'm pretty sure our supply isn't down around 50 or 55 where I'd like to see it, because this unit's been off for quite some time. The office isn't really insulated very well against the rest of the building. It's almost like a just an open design, and in the middle of this giant un-air conditioned building they have some wooden walls in place and a air conditioner attached to those walls. So it's not ideal conditions, but I think I'm going to gauge up to it just to double check our pressures, make sure everything looks good. Alright guys, here's what we're looking at. We got an evaporator coil temperature of about 46 degrees. Our condensing temperature is about 120. Subcooling's been floating between 17 and 19. It's about 85 degrees outside here, so our condensing temperature isn't too bad. We got about a 30-35 split on that. I did check my superheat. Superheat was 3 to 5, not bad. I apologize, I seem to be missing my other temperature probe, my temperature clamp. But everything points to we just have a high load on this system. We're still bringing back about 78, 80 degree air. And like I said, this is just basically it's a wooden box inside of a giant cement building. And the walls of this wooden box that has 8 separate offices inside of it are not well insulated. So it's not an ideal system. We're not, you know, at a house or anything where they'd have insulated walls and everything like that. It's a pretty bad situation for this unit, but it looks like it's doing all that it can. So I'm gonna wrap it up here, guys. I think we're done for the day. Hope you enjoy the video. Hope you learned something as we go. Like and subscribe.